Good afternoon and welcome to Port St. Lucie. This is Professor Tefero for the International Monetary Fund, um, which is going to be lesson 5 for the course on Introduction to Macroeconomics Part 2. This will be lesson 5. The International Monetary Fund is extremely important, so you need to pay close attention to this particular lesson. You need to pay close attention to all my lessons. But the IMF is an economic organization that cooperates to avoid major economic downturns. What do we mean by this? Well, for example, in 1929, there was a major economic downturn that caused a depression that lasted for 10 years. And not only the depression in the United States, but worldwide depression that everybody suffered. When the United States suffers, generally speaking, everyone suffers. So the IMF was created to avoid major events like the stock market crash of 29 and its ramifications. Think of the IMF as an emergency switch on the elevator. If you're in the elevator and you go down and all of a sudden the elevator starts falling, you're going to die. No. If you push the red switch, hopefully the emergency stop will kick in and stop you before you crash at the bottom and die. The IMF is exactly the same type of mechanism, but it's an economic switch rather than an elevator switch. And it tries to keep countries from burning and crashing and dying at the bottom of the elevator shaft. So think of the IMF as an elevator switch, and you'll have a complete idea of how it works. Some of the duties of the IMF are to stabilize monetary systems that are suffering from inflation. These are generally third world countries, but major countries can also be suffering from this problem, like Greece. And they have to decide whether or not they're going to give loans to these countries and if they're going to be paid back for these loans. Generally speaking, most of the loans are not paid back. They're made to generally third world countries that can't afford to pay them back. They have runaway inflation, rampant inflation, and they need a loan. So there's 10 million people who won't starve from that country. And so it's more of a charitable act. The richer countries are supporting the poorer countries through very stabilized loans from the IMF. It's sort of a vetting. The IMF vets the third world countries saying, yeah, let's see, you do have 5 million people starving and they're living in camps. Okay, we will give you a loan. So they give you the loan, and now instead of 5 million people starving, you only have 2 million people starving, and better than nothing. And so the countries said, oh, now you have to pay back the loan. No, they're not going to pay back the loan. So you have to forgive the loan. And basically, it's a charitable act by the richer countries giving charity in a vetted form to third world countries through the IMF. Now, in the major economies, the IMF is also useful because it monitors inflation in major countries and gives them loans that they expect to be repaid because you're a major country and you can afford to repay the loan. However, only countries that are suffering from rampant inflation, like Greece, will have problems repaying the loan. And then sometimes the IMF will discuss, well, should we forgive Greece or should we, not tack on any more interest, no compound interest. So basically, the IMF is not going to charge you compound interest. It's not a charity, but it's also not a usurious institution that is trying to make money on countries that have problems economically. So there you have a pretty good idea of how the IMF works and what they do, and how the richer countries support the poorer countries through loans that don't get repaid. Until next time, this is Professor Tefero from Port St. Lucie, wishing you all a happy and healthy day. Bye-bye.